Hey fam, before we get to the episode, we want to take a moment to address the June 24th, 2022 Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe versus Wade. This decision stripped away the right to have a safe and legal abortion.
Everyone, and I mean everyone, should have the freedom to decide what's best for themselves and their families, including when it comes to ending a pregnancy. Full stop. This decision has dire consequences for individual health and safety and will lead to harsh repercussions for other landmark decisions. I mean, y'all, they made it plain about what they're coming for next in the concurrent opinion.
Restricting access to comprehensive reproductive care, including abortion, threatens the health and independence of all Americans.
Learn more about ways you can help by visiting podvoices.help. That's PODVOICES.HELP. And if you're able to support others, please consider donating to local abortion funds because they provide financial, logistical, and practical support for people seeking care.
We encourage you to speak up, take care, and spread the word.
So, I mean, that's the cold open. That's it.
That's it,
Yeah,
because it's a cold world.
it's a cold world. Hey, fam, and welcome back to another week of the Good Black Podcast. We're gonna jump right into the catch up. So what's been going on with you, Gant? What's been going on? How's it going?
Things are going.
Mm,
This week has
mm.
not been great nationally, and
Mm.
so I think that has kind of forced me to be personally reflecting on the importance of bringing societal issues down to scale, just kind of in your own home front and in your own purview, and thinking more intentionally about, for me, ways to support women in the workplace, ways to support the women I know, ways to support women I love, and then just kind of generally how to be, I think, a better ally to the women around me. I think specifically from, as we mentioned in the pre-roll, the Supreme Court decision, but also just kind of generally, I work with a lot of women, and I seek to do my best to be a support and not a hindrance to them
Mm-hmm.
in work. And then I also, come from a family of women. We, come from a matriarchy. Like my mother has
Yep,
six
there's a lot of
sisters.
them. It's a lot of them.
Yeah, and only two brothers. So, I come from a family like that's very, heavy in women. And so I genuinely believe in their humanity and their right to, to be in any space and not consistently have to defend their, their personhood and their feelings. And I'm not perfect, because, I'm also in a relationship with a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes I don't get it. Sometimes I don't be listening. Sometimes I'm not hearing it, and and I'm not seeing it for her, sometimes. But that is for different reasons. But it's important for me to, make sure that I'm, just being conscientious and thinking about ways to be supportive and not to be, again, a stumbling block in another woman's way, any
Yeah.
person's way, but specifically this week, thinking about how to be a better ally and a better help to the women around me. So just kind of processing that and reflecting that and seeing the ways in which I contribute to, to that continued marginalization and oppression, and doing my best not to perpetuate it or to revel in it. So that's the space that I'm in, but just kind of processing that. I know you have thoughts. How has this week been for you?
Yo, do I thoughts me so
Thoughts,
many
you say?
thoughts you say. Um, I think one of my staff members said it perfectly because we just had a meeting recently. America doesn't deserve a birthday party this year. I already wasn't seeing it for the 4th, but we darn sure don't deserve a celebration this year.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
like,
not.
like I'm ready to turn the car back around on America. I don't. And I have to laugh to keep from being completely engulfed in rage right now.
Yeah.
So this last week, I mean, it's been a lot of stress. It's been a lot of rage, and no, rage is the correct word. Rage is the
Mm,
correct word for what I've experienced this week. And then, there's just also been a lot of educating other people in my life about what this decision means, and me also in educating others having to like really take a step back and remember that, Jade, you sit in this, like you steep yourself in this every single day because of where you work, because of what you
Mhm.
do. Um, and, this hasn't been on everybody's radar. So I think, unlike other times in my life where I haven't been the best at like being a calm educator when I'm very passionate about things, like this time around, I think I did a great job. And so talk to my loved ones about practical support and what that can look like, and like I said, what the decision means. But it's just been a lot of talking and steeping and rage and lots of updates and you know trying to get it all in. It's chaos right now as far as the abortion access landscape. And this is manifested in, like, I'm stressed out at work. I'm having to go through all these emotions at work, still having to work, because what I do is I'm now, the way I've built up my work stream at my company is we support other trainers and facilitators. And so now we are in this mode of, they're about to be, in these spaces where people are also stressed out and trying to learn. And so how can we equip them, with the knowledge, with the theory, with, specific practices that they can use as facilitators to make their training spaces still be impactful in the ways that they need them to be, but also recognize people's humanity, especially in this moment. So just doing a lot of work to support folks on the ground in that way. But all of this emotion has manifested itself in me not being able to process basic information. I went to work out with my trainer, so I see her twice a week. Um, so went to work out with her earlier this week, and she had to show me the same move 4 times because I could not compute what she was trying to show me, because my brain was just so fried from high cortisol levels basically, and like I said, just the rage and stress and everything else that I,
Mhm.
am dealing with or thinking about. Couldn't even follow basic instructions. Um, and so that's what stress and a lot of emotion can do to somebody. And my team and I talk to other people about that. And so, when you have a stressed learner in front of you, don't be surprised if they are not following basic instructions. And sure enough, here I am. I'm like, girl, I need you to show me that move one more time. Okay, now do it again.
Mhm.
Now break it down. Now break down what you just broke down. I'm not. Can we do something else, please? I can't. I can't.
Yeah,
I can't.
yeah.
It's just my brain was not putting three and three together to make six.
Mhm.
Um,
Not even 2 and 2.
not even two and two. I was trying to be at a higher, cognitive function, and it said, "Girl, bye. You can get zero and
No.
zero. That's what you can do." Um, it was rough out here for you, girl. But I will
Yeah.
say, kind of to end off, like, one of the ways that I try to take care of myself and like bring some joy into my life this week. So, my cat, I mean, I live with a cat. She is my baby.
I
She
live with
turned
that.
8 this week. And so I was like, you know
Oh.
what? I need a little levity in my life, and maybe this will bring some other people some joy too. So I took the birthday celebration to a different level of ridiculousness than I've ever taken it before. Like, we went full cat in this house. Full cat. And people who follow me on social media got the chance to see that. And like I said, hopefully it brought some joy to their lives as well too. We had a photo shoot. We did cat stuff on the ground. I had a whole cat suit on with red cat eye
Huh.
sunglasses. Like, I was
Oh,
not
well, as
playing.
one
I
should.
was here for the girl, okay? And we had a grand old time. But she also, like, she got birthday treats, and she ate really well that day. But just like I said, the ridiculousness or the elevated nature of the celebration for her gave me something else to focus on. And so all the meetings that I had that day, they got to see me, not my full cat suit, but they at least got to see that I was wearing animal print and then the glasses. Like, I did my makeup. We had a good time. Um, and yeah, when my team saw me, they also, it brought some smiles to their faces. So I think, it broke some of the ice for this week. But Um, I just this week was hard. I mean, it's been hard, you know.
Yeah.
Earth, not even just America, Earth has been a little ghetto these last few years,
Oof.
and turning up the notch and like redefining what that even means. But
Yeah.
this week was especially hard to wake up and refresh that page and to see that my rights are being stripped away. Um, and so,
Yeah.
James Baldwin did not lie when he said to be Black and conscious in America is to be in a constant state of rage. I felt all of that this week. Like the notch was turned up on the rage this week. So, but tomorrow we
Yeah,
fight. We
definitely.
continue to fight on.
Yeah, I mean, what is the other choice? As Rihanna would say, to curl up and die. Who wants to do that? You
Nobody.
know?
Yeah. But that's what they want
So,
you to do. That's exactly what they want you to do
yeah,
because that means you can't fight anymore.
yeah,
And
that's
so
definitely
in
what they
these
want.
moments, we do try to find the joy. We do continue to find community, and that's what I attempted to do this week. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I definitely like want to earmark what you just said and kind of underscore like the importance of finding the moments of joy. Um just want to earmark that and like finding your moments of joy and actually giving yourself the opportunity to have joy even in the midst of trying times. Like
hmm,
if the time is hard, it ain't gonna not be hard after you take 15 minutes to watch your favorite YouTube video
right,
or to do something silly with your friends or to go out to eat and
right,
and whatever else. I think a lot of times, like, social media and other spaces can make you feel a guilt for finding joy in times that are not great.
hmm,
And I don't think by any means should be like, you don't have to be turning cartwheels every day or pretend,
right.
putting
Pretending
your
everything
fingers
is
in your
fine.
ears.
Yes.
Right, you don't have to pretend everything is fine, but I mean, even more of a reason for you to go out and find sources of joy and things that make you happy, like in that replenish you and that relight your fire and that re-energize you and reinvigorate you for the fight.
Hmm.
Not to just say that, okay, I'm having a better day today. It's like, just, do that. And I feel like a part of resistance is existing,
Yes.
like when you are in a space like the one that we have in this dumpster fire of a
Hmm.
country. um Existence is a part of resistance and being whole and showing up, with excitement and with energy and with rage, because
Hmm.
sometimes you need that too. Anger is a useful emotion. It's just not sustainable. You
Yeah.
can't sit in that space all the time. And shout out to Another Round podcast, which is dead and gone, but she lives on. I learned that phrase from that podcast. The people ain't dead and gone. They're
Right.
alive and well.
I
They,
was
they
like,
they're
Tracy
doing
and Heaven
great.
are very
The
much with
show,
us. Oh Lord.
I know they're
That's
very
how
much with
rumors
us,
get
but the show,
started.
no, they not dead, y'all. Don't go and tell nobody I done killed Tracy in heaven,
Jesus.
okay? But the show has gone on to
Gone on
greener
to glory.
pastures.
Hmm.
Going on to glory, yes. But I learned that statement from that, and I've learned a lot from that. Again, shout out to women, Black women specifically. But I learned a lot from that particular statement. Like anger is useful. It's it can be utilized,
Hmm.
and you can't sit in it all the time
Yeah.
because it burns. So go find you some joy. Be happy as well as much as you can, and find your sources of joy where you can.
Yeah.
Um, in these trying times, in these last and evil days, as my grandma would
Mm,
say.
mm, 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 mm.
So, hey fam, welcome to the Family Feud. This is the segment where we discuss relevant topics, pains, lessons, and growth, and just kind of general moments of blackity black families and black adulting.
Mhm.
All right. So, this week we are talking about imposter syndrome.
Yeah, so before we actually get into the meat of the conversation, I wanted to make sure I wanted to make sure that we actually set aside some time to define it. So like what is imposter syndrome? Where did it first start to show up? And then honestly, what are some of the BS pieces of this? Because there's an additional layer to this that I think not I think, that I want to make sure that we also touch on because this will kind of shape the rest of our conversation. So, as far as imposter syndrome goes, or imposter phenomenon, it's a term that actually shows up, came to being after like this study that happened in the 70s. And I am giving you a very general, very brief. We like sliding past all of this, because I'm not about to go into the history with y'all, but starts to show up around the 70s. And at that time, it was called imposter phenomenon. And so the study that this actually derives from, um, it it looked at the conditions of people in the workplace, but it actually excluded groups like women of color and people of different income levels. And so if you remove key groups like that, it's also not looking at, and this term was coming from this highly sanitized place because it's not looking
Mm,
at, the systems that people of color, women of color, and people with, different economic levels or different income levels, would operate in. So it's not looking at the impacts of classism, sexism, racism, xenophobia, things like that. And so I wanted to make sure I call that out in particular because there was this piece that Jodi Ann Burry did, called Stop Telling Women They Have Imposter Syndrome. And so, how they succinctly define it there, it's, imposter syndrome is doubting your abilities and feeling like a fraud, um, or just feeling like you don't belong. And so, excuse me, along with that definition, they say that it typically or disproportionately affects high achieving people. And those high achieving people find it difficult to accept their own accomplishments. And so then they start to wonder if they even deserve like the, the praise or accolades that they're getting. So I wanted to, like I said, give a quick definition, give that quick caveat that this term or this quote unquote syndrome, which is a group of symptoms, if you were to look up the definition of syndrome, was created in a space and, came to being in a space where they also weren't looking at the impacts of other systems that could contribute to that space. Um,
right.
and, then we have the ultimate definition. So people, high achieving people, doubting their abilities, doubting their achievements. Um, and so, in short, or as some manifestations or examples of what this could look like, it's when you feel like you don't belong or you question your credentials or your status, and you might feel like you're not worthy to be where you're at, or I know when it's come up for me, it's kind of like I'm waiting to be quote unquote found out, like, oh, I've been let in, I have this
Mm,
dirty secret, they don't know. Um, it, can sometimes, or that feeling is you questioning the expertise that you do have. Like if you've gone to school and studied something and you have this expertise, this phenomenon, or the syndrome says, or has shown up, like the expertise that you do have, you don't even fully recognize that, or you question that. You don't feel like you're successful or smart. It's just a lot of questioning. And then yeah, just a lot of questioning of yourself and your abilities and your presence. So hopefully that makes sense. I wasn't rambling too much. I'm gonna check in with Gant. We'll be good as far as the definition.
no, and I think
No, we're
I
not
feel
good.
like this. Say again.
No, we're not good, or we're good?
No, yeah, like that's
Oh.
good. Like it totally makes sense. My bad.
I can do it again.
Um, yes, that totally makes sense, and I feel like, imposter syndrome has been something that's kind of become a little bit more of a common conversation, and I
Mhm,
feel like what you just like, the way that you just encapsulated that is kind of people's general understanding, I feel
mhm,
like, of it, but obviously with the caveat of y'all have not included the places and people who are intentionally left out of, spaces,
mhm.
and that is why they don't feel qualified to be there in the first place.
Right.
So thank you for for including that, yeah, that caveat because that's really important.
Yeah. So,
So
I
oh,
was
yeah,
just
go
gonna
ahead.
say, so let's get into some of the discussion that we have around this. Now that we've defined it, talked a little bit about what it looks like, even gave the caveat. Like, and we're going to continue to say this. It's the systems. It's the systems, not the people. But to kind of pivot the conversation, thinking back to earlier times where you were in some spaces, that and being in those spaces, you might have felt what would be considered to be imposter syndrome. Like, what was that like for you? What were those spaces? Or where have you been in spaces that you didn't feel as safe for you to mess up or just perform to the level that you're able to perform at?
Right. So for me, I felt that way in my own relationship. I think it probably was the most probably the place where it showed up the most saliently
Mm,
was in relationship. I think you spend so much time around, you spend so much time with your, significant others, like your partners. But for me, what it always kind of brought up was kind of this inherent feeling of unworthiness that made
mm,
me feel a pressure to overperform in my relationship, and it definitely induced a little bit of anxiety. So it's
mm,
like I wanted to be perfect all the time. I
mm-hmm.
never wanted to make a mistake, and when I inevitably failed at that, because there's no way
There's
to
no
be
way to keep that
perfect.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way to keep that up, and it's not healthy, and it's not, good for you. When I failed at that, like, it made me crazy. Well, not crazy, that's overused, but, it made me feel, this guilt and this worry, like you mentioned earlier, like, this fear that, like, I'm gonna be found out, like, she's gonna realize, like,
Right.
I'm not actually,
I'm
like,
not
a
that good.
good enough
Yeah.
person.
Oof.
Yeah. So yeah, so that was something that was a place where that showed up for me. And then also just professionally, like at work, I think that's the most common place, but I don't think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people attach that feeling or that worry of imposterness to relationships, to personal relationships. And,
Mm-hmm.
and even if it's not like romantic relationships, like it can be like in friendships, like you link up with somebody or become mentored by somebody who you're like, this person is so dope. What do they want with
What do
me?
they want?
you
Who
know?
sent you here? Why do you want to talk to me of all people?
Yes.
Yes.
Who hired you? Who you working for? Yeah, like, what do you want with me? What information do I have that
Right.
you see value in?
I have nothing to offer you, good sir.
Please, sir.
Please, could I
Can I
have
have
some
some
more?
more? Yeah, and yeah, that's crazy. But I will say that I think that because I don't do a lot of external processing, I don't talk to a lot of people about the feelings that I have. I think something that I just picked up over the last couple of years, probably via social media, is like, if you wouldn't say it to a friend, don't say it to yourself.
Mhm.
That is one of the really big things that I have picked up for myself, and that has kind of helped me, like, just have some positive self-talk going on in my brain. And because I internalize so much and because I process internally so frequently, that's been really important for me. That's been a really big deal of me to speak well of myself to myself and about myself. Um, and so that has kind of helped me find my way out of that imposter syndrome, find my way out of those, even out of the feelings of not belonging, because, obviously we spoke a little bit about um the idea that, the black and brown people in the professional space specifically, experience intentional exclusion,
Mhm.
and intentional methods or measures of kind of like making you feel like you're always kind of like always behind the eight ball,
Yeah.
right? And kind of really just combating that and ignoring that, and also looking around and seeing white people be mediocre
Yep.
and be able to still ascend, still climb. And I'm like, okay, so I'm not the issue here.
Right.
Being able to see that and call that out for myself and see that, even if I don't, go and scream it from the mountaintops, like this is inequitable and this is unfair, but I can see with my own eyes and be like, no, 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 no. You're doing good work. You're doing good labor. You have good thoughts. And a big thing I tell myself, I do not have any evidence to the contrary. I don't have any evidence
Mm.
in my life to say that I'm a failure. I don't have any
Mhm.
evidence in my life to say that I make bad ideas or that I can't do these things, because I've survived everything that came before.
Right.
I've been decent, if nothing else, at
Yeah.
everything that has come before. So I have evidence to talk myself out of that, and I try to be very intentional about not letting myself like get down in the dumps. And again, not, not making an agreement with those negative thoughts and those negative feelings and, and worries, because a lot of it is internal, not all of it, but a lot of it is internal. And so I just try to improve that like through self talk. And that's not, a way to get you out of going to therapy, because go, but, but it is a way to say, you know what, I'm going to take control of as much of this as I can
Right.
and kind of give myself the opportunities and the space to treat myself well, and to not side with, the things that are in place to make me feel like I am out of place.
Right. And I think that's such a key thing. Like once you get to the point where you can recognize that it's not you and
Hmm.
these things were designed to make you feel like that. They were designed to other you, then how you talk to yourself, it's like, well, actually, like you said, I don't have evidence to the contrary. What do you this has not been me. I can actually
Hmm.
like look at my past, what I've done, you know, and stand it up against these systems and say, this is what I'm able to do. This is what I have done.
Right.
This is why I am that guy or that
Ye
girl
Yes,
or that person.
yes,
Um,
yes, that they them.
and your impacts will no longer come from me in this way. And so not to
Absolutely.
say that, um, you need to go to any like seminar, like self improvement seminars or anything like that. But I think, like I said, once you are able to recognize the thing for what it is, then
Mhm.
you can have some things in your back pocket to combat the negative self talk that those systems have placed within you. That's what it
And
is,
encourage.
and encouraged, because it'll stoke the fires, it'll stoke the flames, because that's what is once
Mhm.
again that's what it's designed to do. But once you
Yep.
can recognize, you're like, actually, I know me. I know what I've done,
Right.
and you have no power here. Poof.
Be gone.
Poof. Be gone.
Yes, I did wanna, do, like, a quick double back. Like, one of
Mm,
the things that I, have experienced is, I had a supervisor, like, my very first professional supervisor. Obviously, I've had lots of jobs, but my
mhm.
first, like, professional full-time
He be
supervisor,
having jobs,
um
y'all.
Yes, I had jobs now. I've done the things, but yes, first full time professional supervisor like saw that, saw kind of like that self doubt and that self, like that imposter imposter esque, imposter
Mhm.
adjacent syndrome on me. And one of the things that she did in the time that she supervised me was she hand painted this rock. I still have it. It's in my office on my desk. But she hand painted this rocket with a thought cloud that says trust on it.
Mm.
And when she gave it to me, she's like, I see a lot of self doubt, but she's like, but you should trust yourself. She was like, you have everything that you need to be here. There is no reason that you shouldn't be here, that you don't belong around these people and these other
Mm.
professionals. And you will get there. But for right now, like I want to give this to you to remind you to trust yourself.
That's
And that was
amazing.
really impactful to me because I was
Yeah.
like, number one, I felt seen
Mhm.
and a little bit embarrassed because I was like, oh gosh, you're not supposed to see that. I'm supposed to put on a good front. And at the same time, I was like, thank you for seeing that and also encouraging me to just live and to just exist and be, and just be whole in a moment. And even if that's not perfect, it's enough.
Was that a black woman?
Of course it was. And another thing that I reflected upon, like until this year, I have never not had a black woman as a supervisor.
Aw, lucky.
Until well, not this year, but until this maybe well, yeah, I guess this past calendar year, like
Mhm.
365 days, I have never not had a black woman
Mm.
supervisor. And always pouring in, always doing the very best that they could to
Mm.
support and to be present and to see you fully. So shout out to her. I maybe I shouldn't mention them by name, but but shout out to her.
You know who
I will
you are.
send this episode to you in post.
You know who you are. We appreciate you, my good sister.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm.
So yeah. So moving through that, anything you want to add to that? Any like specific pieces that that you are thinking back to, reflecting on?
For me, well, I will say that in hearing you tell that story, one of the things that I've noticed in my time on this earth and like being in professional spaces is that a lot of people have this feeling, but they always think they're the only one.
Mm,
And sometimes, especially if you're black and ascending through the ranks at an organization, you can reach a
right.
super high level and still feel like this. So
Absolutely.
once again, it is these systems. It is these systems. And it's wild. But I would
Yeah.
say I've definitely felt it in relationships. I've felt it at work. I felt it at school and like in particular with my master's program. And I've felt it as a business owner. And so feeling it as a business owner, like I have two things. Feeling it as a business owner, thing number one is that has manifested in me not charging what I'm worth as far as my services is concerned because I
Ooh.
don't feel like I have enough experience, enough expertise. I'm not as good as insert other birth workers' names. I don't
Mm,
do, as much as I'm not, and I've had to mentor someone through this as well. I'm not a quote unquote real doula because I don't do this full time. Like it manifests in a lot of very interesting ways as a business owner. And then the second thing, um, and like just that thinking that one day they're gonna find out I'm not smart enough. I I got here because I'm charming, whatever. Like they made a mistake hiring me. Like I said, thinking back to the professional realm because I've definitely felt it there. It's like I would look around at my colleagues like, gosh, I am not as smart as these other people because I don't immediately try to apply theory or logic models
mm,
to what it is that we're talking about. And, my what I'm offering up is because of observation, is because of lived experience, or, seeing other things that have worked out in the world and wanting to test or try things out. Um, and not understanding and realizing that that quote unquote power of the written word and that reliance on quote unquote scientific study and time tested theories, both of those things are a part of white supremacy culture. And with that in mind, not recognizing that what I have to bring to the table is just as valuable. Anecdotal evidence, people's stories, people's lived experiences, that's valuable. That is still data. I'm bringing that to the table in ways that they're not. So, how can I sit here and think I'm not as smart as them when what I'm doing is translating theory to practice in the blink of, I mean, maybe not the blink of an eye, but that's what I'm ultimately doing. I'm just skipping some of the middle piece, but because I didn't see that, I didn't understand that, I'm sitting here thinking, gosh, I wish I could talk about theory the same way that they do and apply it to this situation. I'm just sitting here throwing out suggestions of things that we could be trying. What? And sitting here thinking
mm,
that that's not valuable. What? In what world? What?
mm.
So that's how it's shown up for me. And like I said, the recognition and continued study and reflection and talking to some really great, could be, should be mentors in my life have helped me come to the point where I'm like, actually, what I have to say is valuable. What I have to say is important. It's just as valuable, just as important. It'll support us in doing what we need to do. You need to charge what you're worth because look at all of the things that you've done to get here on top of
Mhm.
everything else that clients and whoever you're working with or whoever you're partnering is getting because of your lived experience. They're paying for you. They're paying for you to show up. They want you there. Um, and so, yeah, like finally having all of this click after years and years of feeling like this, having it all click over time. And like I said, having some amazing Black women mentors in my life who created the space for me to be vulnerable, to be able to talk with them about this, to be able to talk through this. And then them also saying, like your supervisor said with you, them also saying, Jade, I trust you. I
Mm,
trust your talents, your abilities, your presence
yeah.
here. I don't, some of them flat out said, I don't make mistakes. If you're
Nope.
here for a reason.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And so, and then, not only are they saying, I trust you, but also, Jade, I need you to trust me that I want you here. Mind
Mm,
blown. I need you to
wow.
trust me that I want you here. Because what you're also
Yes.
saying is you don't trust me that I know what I'm doing.
Right.
Mm-mm. Hmm.
And that's such a big piece. That's such a big piece, I think,
Mm-hmm.
for me, like of kind of healing that and like, and I guess in a way of self-talk, but just like understanding, like, wait a minute, if you think that you don't belong in this space or that that you're not worthy of this thing, that means that you don't trust what they're saying either. You don't
Right.
believe them either,
Right.
which is an insult to them.
Right.
Like,
Yep.
so yes, I'm just
I
making agreement
just
with what you're saying. Sorry.
Whew. No, you're fine. Cause like I said, I can't remember the first time somebody said that to me. And then for at least a couple months after that, it was reiterated in different situations. And these people had never talked to each other. And I said, okay, God, I
Mm,
hear you. I hear you affirming this message for me. You could stop
yep.
now. I get it.
Yep.
I get it. But
Yep.
yeah,
And for
it's
me, I never
mm,
catch that until way after. It's
right.
like, oh yeah, like that did get affirmed like in multiple places, and I
Hmm.
just like I just missed it
I
until I was
missed
ready
it.
to process
But
it.
he's gonna continue to say it until you get it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
but yeah, that's how it's shown
Absolutely.
up for me in like the spaces that I've been in. And I'm sure other people have felt that too. Like I talk to, other birth workers all the time, or I'm seeing them post in our groups. How much should I be charging? Quote unquote, only had, I've
Only
only done. Well, wait a minute. You've also taken how many trainings? You've also
right.
sat on how many boards? You've
Hmm.
also educated how many people outside of this for like, but once again, because of me being a birth worker and that market or that profession or that group being predominantly femme identified people, we've
Hmm.
constantly been told, no, you shouldn't be charging what you're worth. Nobody's going to ever. Why would you think they would want you? Mm-mm, no.
Hmm.
And, thinking about the other spaces that I've operated within, same type of messages. And then if somebody tells you something long enough, you start to believe it,
Right.
which is unfortunate. And so
Yeah.
now you and I are both in the process of, we've done a lot of processing, reworking, and I feel like we are now, this is going to segue me to our next question. I feel like now that we've got the juice, now that we've got a little bit of power, a little
Right.
position, we got the juice now. Um, we are now in a position to create spaces for other people, like space has been created for us, and support other people the way that we've been supported. So how do you support others or create space so that you're not recreating the systems or spaces that produce this feeling or this set of feelings? How do you do it, Gant?
So currently I do supervise a professional staff member. So something, and really I do this with my student staff as well because I supervise many more student staff members. But one of the things that I really try to do is always guide from a space that, like, basically, like, my office is a no judgment zone. Like, I don't encourage it, but I allow my students to come in my office and curse. Like, if you need to come in and, like, and just express whatever it is that you need and get it out, and then, like, help
Hmm.
me, then I can help you process through it, or say what it is that you need to say and let me help you actually, like, develop that thought. Um develop the thought in a way that allows you to get to a different space. I do that, and I feel like that in particular helps people through imposter syndrome because in my opinion, it lets you see that there is no part of me that I cannot bring to work,
Mm,
that I cannot bring and show up, in my fullest of selves. Now,
mhm.
I'm always very clear with my staff as well, professional and otherwise, that now you might not be able to do this with all your supervisors
Right,
in the future.
right.
So I'm very clear
Yeah.
that you may not be able to carry all of these pieces of you into the workplaces that you will have in the
And I
future.
will
But
say
I
that's
just I just
unfortunate that we have to give that caveat. That's so unfortunate.
yeah. Yeah. But I don't want but I think that can also be harmful to not.
Yeah,
I
very
think it
true.
can I think it can be to their detriment to
Mhm.
not tell them the truth about what that may look like going forward and what that may look like in the future. But I feel like giving them the opportunity to kind of side with their values first
Mm,
and to side with your own morals first. And
mhm.
I think what that does is that allows you to trust yourself.
Right.
It allows you to believe yourself when you have like your thoughts and your feelings validated, especially in a professional space. And then, okay, so let me validate how you feel. I'm sorry that that happened to you. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. Now let's process through the approach.
Mhm.
Let's process through how we're going to fix this, how we're going to, get to the other side. Because for me, that it's important I wish I had somebody to help me do it. I wish
Right.
I had somebody, who I felt open enough to share and be like, I'm kind of feeling this way, or I'm kind of feeling that way. Well, first, let me validate that for you. Let
Mhm.
me tell you that it's perfectly normal for you to feel that way. Here's what it is. We can lay it out on the table now that we've been able to be honest in this space. And now from there, let's process through it. Let's get to a healthy back end. I Even though that's not directly, like related to like the imposter syndrome, I
Mhm.
think that being able to be open and be honest about exactly what's going on for you, like in a professional space, is not always something that happens for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think that being honest and being open can allow you to actually process like through your feelings in a healthy way instead of internalizing them, feeling like, well, I can't say this to anybody and I
Right.
just have to kind of like hold it down and keep it locked in my
Yeah.
brain.
But I think that feeling is an extension of what we're talking about because if you feel like you and not to say that you have to I know that some people feel a little differently, especially now about like bringing your entire self to work. But if you
Hmm.
feel like you have to hide away, actively have to hide away parts of you, and not necessarily because you want to, or these people don't need to be all up in my business, but it's
Right.
once again, it's because I'm not smart enough. They're going to find out they made a mistake, or whatever else might be attached to it. I think it's an extension of this collection of feelings because ultimately it's once again the space that you're in is causing that thing number one, and then thing number two is if what am I trying to say, if you are being made to feel like you can't bring that part of yourself, what I think it causes you to turn the dial up or really lean into not necessarily pretending but like stoking the fires of, well, I have to be 2 or 3 times as much, like, I have to be 2 or 3 times as much in this one arena,
Right.
like, they have to see me as this smart go-getter who always has it together, and you turn up the dial, you amplify all of that, and you squeeze out room for the rest, so I think in the same way, where people feel like, "Oh, they made a mistake, I don't belong here, I don't deserve these accolades," I think they're sisters or maybe even cousins to
Hmm.
this feeling of, well, I can't bring my entire self to work. But then like I said, what ends up happening is the dial is turned up on something else so that you can present a good face because you can't show
Right.
this. I got to show this. But then in doing that, that creates a lot of pressure. And this collection of feelings also creates a lot of pressure. It's pressure from all sides. So
Right.
those are my thoughts about that particular piece. I think they're in the same family.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so yeah, like I just I try to lead with that. I try to lead with giving people the space to be themselves and be whole when they come to work,
Mm,
and trust that I'm going to be there to help you process through it, get to a healthy place with that. Another thing is I lead with a lot of trust. And I
yeah.
tell everybody that I grew under another black woman. I grew so much as a professional when I had a supervisor who genuinely trusted me to do my job, and they just
Hmm.
let me literally told
That
me,
part. That
yes,
part.
literally told me in one space, was like, I came and I'm like, hey, like I just wanted to run this thing by you, and like I just wanted to make sure like everything was okay. And she looked at me and was like, okay, like, are you adding something like crazy in it? Like, is it something specific that you wanted me to approve? And I was like, I mean, no, but I just wanted to like get your like opinion and get your thoughts on it. She was like, I trust you. I have my job and you have yours, and I trust you to do your job. And I was like, oh, all right. And also that felt good though, to feel like there was no need for me. Like, listen, this is your job. If something go wrong or something go crazy, I will have a conversation with you about it. But right now, you're fine. You
Yep.
haven't made a mistake before you started. I
Right.
trust you to do the
Right.
small thing. It's fine. You know? So yeah, so I lead with a lot of trust in my supervision as well. If you need help, if you need support, I am absolutely here. If you need development, I'm absolutely here. And I'm going to tell you when you need development.
Yep.
But in the meantime, you haven't shown me anything to make me feel
You
I can't
haven't
trust
given
you to,
me a reason not to trust you. So we gonna
right,
rock with this.
right. Until I
That's
see
huge.
what kind
That's
of,
huge because
yeah,
that's not how people normally interact with people that manage them. That's not, unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the norm. That doesn't seem to be the standard.
yeah,
Like
absolutely. And I think,
what do you mean you hired me and you trust me to do my job? Once again, who sent you? Who, y'all
right.
tricking me? Am
Who
I
you
being
working for?
punked? What's happening?
Yes,
Trust me
that
to do my job. Get out of here.
yeah, you don't know who you hired. I
Right.
just
You
came
don't
in
know
here
who
because
you
y'all
hired.
needed.
I don't
Yeah, I
know what
just
I'm
needed
doing.
a
But I do.
check.
But I do. But I
I
don't.
do,
Hmm.
but I don't. You don't know that.
You don't know that. You just saw a piece of paper and said
Exactly.
that one. Okay.
It, because I can't trust what you're saying.
Right.
I can't trust you. Yeah,
That's
but who can you
wild.
trust at that point?
Exactly.
Who do you
Who
trust?
do you
And that, like, I
trust?
feel like that circle, like when you actually start to like walk yourself through the logic as opposed
Mm,
to having a thought, letting it block you and shut you down.
hmm.
When you actually walk through the logic of that, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like, once you actually get through the whole of it, it's like, wait a minute. You have to look. It's like It's like the Spider-Man meme. Like, wait a minute, I thought it was you, but it was no, it wasn't you. It was me, or
Right.
was it me? Like, it's yes. Like, you start to realize, like, yo, this does not make any sense at
No
all.
sense.
I have been driving myself absolutely crazy over what, like,
What?
chasing my tail,
Yeah.
like, and it's so crazy. So, but you know what? That is how white supremacy works. It does not want you to actually sit and do the logic because
That's
that's
how they
how it
get
keeps
you.
them in chains.
That's how they get you.
Yeah, that's how they get you. Yes, old conspiracy theorists at the grocery store. Like,
Hmm.
see, you got to think about it.
Got to think
You
about
got
it.
to think
Because what people fail to realize is
about it.
stay
Oh,
woke,
Grand
fam.
Rising Queen.
Grand Rising.
Let me not.
Moving on.
Okay, moving on from that.
That's hot. That's hot. It's a hot one.
Woo, hot take. Mark it.
Market.
So,
But that's
yes, back to imposter
amazing. And they are
syndrome.
so lucky to have you.
You know what they are.
Yeah.
They are lucky
Especially
to
if
have.
this is their first like adult type of job, especially those students. Like this is setting a foundation for them, and hopefully they will then take this experience and be able to advocate for themselves. It's like, wait a minute, I've seen how this could be. We don't have to do it like this. Do it like Gant
Mhm.
did. And
You
they
know, I
and they
do
might
fear
say,
for
I ain't gonna
anybody.
do it.
Yeah, I fear for
Do it for the
anybody who
vine. I ain't gonna
supervises
do
them.
it. Do it for the
The-
vine. I ain't gonna
I
do it.
can't.
Mm.
Oh, Vine, R.I.P. We hardly knew you.
Mhm. Mm, mm, mm. Okay.
Oh gosh. Yes. So yeah, I do feel for anybody who supervises them in the future because they're gonna have, they're gonna have work on their hands. But I think it's really
Mm,
important that in your supervision, like if people don't grow under you, like if they feel broken and they feel frustrated, like you are not a good supervisor. Period.
no.
Like now they should, now they might not be the best or most astute at their job, but they should be growing.
Right.
Like they should be being developed and they should be like experiencing some form of trust from you as a supervisor. And if not, you're not doing your job well.
Mhm.
And it's important also that you be able to see that and note that, like, see your staff, be able to look at people, see their, and read them and see what they need and see the places where they need growth or where they just need support. Sometimes they just need support. Maybe they don't
Sometimes they
need you
just
to,
need
go and
support.
pour into them.
And what I will say is that with my folks, because, well, actually, not even with my folks in general, myself included, when you are coming into a space where you don't have what Gant is describing, when you don't have someone who's wanting to pour into you to help you develop, who's trying to create space for you to be and figure it out and work through things and learn to do your job and then do your job, when you don't have
Hmm.
that and then you come under someone who's trying to give that to you, people don't know how to act because, like, wait a minute,
Oh yeah.
where is who? Once again, who sent you? Are
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
tricking me? You want me to let
Yeah.
my guard down? What you talking about?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And so then, because I've been on the receiving end of this, then as a supervisor, people manager, we have to do the work to establish that psychological safety. And we're not about to
Hmm.
get into where this is not a work focused podcast, but right now
Right.
it is apropos. But
Hmm.
having to get into supporting them and understanding that you are here to help and that what you are saying to them about wanting to pour into them and wanting to create a space and wanting to create transformation and wanting to do things differently, like fully acknowledging I know what else the world has to offer, possibly within the same institution that we are operating in right now, and what I
Right.
am trying to offer you is something different. Them people out there wild. I don't know what they doing out
They
there,
is
but what
crazy.
I don't want, what we're not about to do is that. And so really helping them understand and creating space for them to co-create the culture that you want to build. And it's
Mhm.
one of trust, it's one of being seen, it's one of creating space, it's one of working through things, it's one of using your resources and like letting them know I want you to use your resources, I want you to reach out for help. Because another thing is, people will be in these spaces and because they are experiencing these feelings of, well, they're going to find out I'm not as smart, I'm not as XYZ, then they're less likely to ask for help because they feel like they failed, they feel like, well, it's just going to let them know that I don't know how to do my job. That's not it at all, not for me anyway. If you are
Yeah.
asking for help, that means you actually need help, and I'm trusting you to get the resources that you need to be able to complete this task.
Right.
And if that means you need to go find somebody else to help you, please do that.
Please do. Don't
Please
mess it up.
don't mess things up. Don't
Yes,
waste
just
our
ask
time.
for help.
Just go get the help. But
Yeah.
when you've been operating in a space for so long that to do that means you're putting your position in jeopardy, or, for them, your expertise is on the chopping block, that's a horrible way to feel.
Yeah.
I forgot where I was going with all this, but I feel like y'all know what I'm trying to say.
We know. I know what you're trying to say. I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Anyway, but
Uh-oh.
did you have anything else that you wanted to add to yours? I'm sorry, I just cut in like that.
No, 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 no. You're totally fine. Um No, yeah, I think I think the biggest thing that I do to kind of like to counteract having like an oppressive space or a space where, imposter syndrome abounds, is really just acknowledging that it exists and being able to do what that first professional supervisor did for me, which is to be able to see my staff
Mm,
and to be able to understand you and like not understand you fully, but be able to see you and be like, that
Mhm.
looks familiar. Let's talk about that. Like, let's let's process through that is what what that is for you. So being able to see people and see them whole, I think is just I think is a skill.
Mhm.
And, I think it definitely needs practice and supervision so that you don't end up creating spaces where things like that abound. Because I
Right.
want everybody in my care. And I feel like as a supervisor, like people are in your
In
care.
your care.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't want them to feel that way. I don't want to create a space where that abounds. I want to create a space where people feel confident and where even confident even to explore and even to make mistakes and to fall
Yep.
and scrape your knee. You're going to do that sometimes.
Right.
And I want people to have that space to be able to do that because that's how you grow, that's how you learn, that's how you figure out your comfort zones versus, your learning spaces.
Yep.
Um and I want people to be comfortable just trying things, just like Cat Williams, trying stuff won't work, trying stuff, just like try something new, do something new, stretch your boundaries, and understand that you will be fine. You have everything that you need. You were born with everything that you need to survive the
Mhm.
life that you are going to have. So, you know, get through it and trust yourself and trust your gut, trust your intuition, and to even get to know that. So, and creating space in that just looks like, honesty, reality, being real, being truthful, being transparent, and sharing that with people. And also sharing with people when I don't feel that confident.
Mhm.
I don't feel that great about this, but I feel confident that I make good decisions and I make sound decisions. And if I feel like at any point we need to turn back, we will.
Yep.
So yeah, just about just that on creating space. But anything else that you have to add? Any thoughts that you haven't already shared? Ooh.
I've got two.
Okay.
Um, so one of the things, like when I'm leading a training or facilitating a space, one of the things that I try to do is ground the space in the fact that, like I said, I trust the people there with the knowledge and expertise that they have. I let them know that I trust them. Um, I tell them, you know, I tell them and try to show them that I trust their knowledge and abilities. And I also tell them and show them that they don't have to know everything. And it doesn't mean that if they don't know everything, that they don't know their job or, that they're doing something wrong. I give space for people to not know. I try to help take that weight off their shoulders because it can really weigh people down. It can really feel very heavy. Try to help them take that weight off their shoulders, um, and encourage them to tap into their resources, the people, places, things, stuff like that. And then, second thing that I try to do when I facilitate, especially workshops, because they're, you know, also majority femme identified spaces because of the nature of the work I do. Um,
Hmm.
when I'm facilitating, I will actually put certain things. I call them community asks and acknowledgments. Some people might call them space agreements or learning agreements, some type of something along those lines. But I'll start our time together with some of these things as far as our framing the space and how I want us to operate. And once again, just trying to create the space for them to take that weight off their shoulders. So I will set up the space with things like it doesn't have to be fully formed to be valuable. And so
Yeah.
that'll be one of the statements. And I make sure to say that. And, I'll give a little bit of an explanation. So, with it doesn't have to be fully formed to be valuable. One of the things that I've noticed in my time working is that, especially femme identified folks, women, we apologize for a lot. We
Hmm.
apologize, um if or we'll end it with, if that makes any sense. And I know I did it earlier, like, oh, such and such and such and such, I mean, if that makes any sense. So it's almost like a form of an apology if we
Hmm.
don't have things fully figured out. And so we'll apologize a lot for that. And in the learning space, I tell them it doesn't have to be fully formed in order for it to be valuable, because I want you to bring your idea fragments. I want you to bring your run on sentences, your half baked ideas. It doesn't have to be fully baked in order for it to be good. because we're doing this work together. We're doing this work of learning together. So maybe if you bring, you know, a piece of an idea, somebody else can help us finish, and we'll work together like that. So I remind them of that. I say that out loud. I also talk to them and put this in the, space agreement section about expertise versus expert. And
Mm,
I learned this from counseling, because I was also going through this experience of feeling like I had to know everything. And because I didn't know everything, and I wasn't an expert, that I wasn't charging what I was worth, that I was a fraud, that I, you
mm,
know, shouldn't be working with these types of clients because they need somebody who's more expert. But you'll never get to, I mean, not never get to expert level, but thinking about it in terms of expertise versus you being an expert, which can be a heavy rock to hold on to. Thinking about it in terms of expertise, with expertise, it gives you a little bit more breathing room. It lets you and other folks know, I know I know what I know, and I'm good at what I know, and I'm acknowledging that I still have room to grow. And isn't that a beautiful thing? So I have a
yeah.
lot of expertise. I'm gonna bring that to the table. Expert makes me feel, like I said, puts a weight on my shoulder. It makes me feel like I'll never get there. Sometimes that level of expert makes people feel like they will never get there. But if you talk more
Mm,
about it in terms of expertise, we acknowledge that it's a journey. You're going to continue to learn, and then when you learn more, you can apply that, and that's fine. And then the third thing that I offer up to them, and I make sure is embedded in our space, is letting them know that they are the experts in their lived experience or lived experiences, and I want them to bring that into the room. Because a lot of folks would be like, well, I don't have any direct, experience with this particular topic that we're talking about, so I feel like I can't bring anything to the table.
right.
Pause on that. You're the expert in your lived experiences. You have been on the receiving end of somebody trying to do a workshop. So what has that been like? That is also valuable. You have a
Mm,
lot of lived experience, and there are things that, no, they might not directly apply, but if you were to sit and think for a moment, there are lessons or key concepts that you have learned based on these lived experiences that I want you to bring into this space here. So I let them know that I trust them, and in that case they are the expert, because nobody knows more about them than them. And I want them to bring all of that into the room. So, like I said, when I'm facilitating spaces, or even when I'm working with my own staff, those are the types of things that I try and infuse into the space, either by making sure that they're statements that I'm framing the space up with, and we talk through them, or just by continuing to uphold those things. Um, and I said I had two things, but this is actually the third thing. So the third thing is I continue to learn and apply, and then share what I've learned with others. And so, excuse me. There
good.
is she's an amazing speaker, a writer, and she calls herself like a she's a proclaimed disruptor. Her name is Jodi Ann Burry. And so I mentioned the piece at the top of the episode, but she did this piece with someone else called Stop Telling Women They Have Imposter Syndrome. Um, and she also has this workshop that I took a couple years ago called Imposter Syndrome is BS, a
Ooh,
workshop for women of color. And it's a curated space, especially for women of color. Like I said, I took it a couple years ago, and it was so helpful, because with that workshop and then reading her piece, one of the things I remember walking away with is that me feeling like this is not my fault. Um, Me feeling like I don't belong. I didn't do this. I didn't other myself.
yeah.
It's because I'm working, once again, working within these systems that are continuing to perpetuate white supremacy culture, and they're designed to make me feel like this, or make me question my credentials. They're designed to make me feel like, my services aren't worth whatever the white doulas are charging. It's designed for that. And I think Jodi Ann says it perfectly, that, she said it to us in the workshop, and I believe she says it in other spaces. She's not about to blame herself for feeling like this, and we shouldn't be blaming ourselves. Um, because when we start to blame ourselves, and that's when we start to think, well, I just need some more self-confidence workshops, or I need some more self-confidence boosts, I need more affirmations, which are great. And you are not the problem in this situation. It's the system, it's the organization, it's the
Right.
water that you're swimming in that needs to change. And I mean, of course, self-improvement is great, and we should all be on that journey. And only take responsibility for what you can actually take responsibility for.
Right.
But this ain't it.
Yeah. Because we don't own this system,
We don't own this system.
and we don't belong to it either.
Yeah. But we're gonna make sure that we put the link to her piece in the show notes or in the description for this episode, so other people can go and spread the gospel of stop telling women they have imposter syndrome, because it
Yes, because they
truly is
lying.
BS, because they lying. They lying. If love is accountability, here's where we show our love by discussing matters that we need to address and grow from, because what doesn't get addressed gets amplified, as we all know. So, this is where we've landed after the feud, and this is how we move forward and do better. I'm going to start because I'm going to be real quick. I ain't got no love to give this week. And this is officially how we will let you know that we are skipping, you know, because remember, we each usually have a love letter. This is how I'm gonna let y'all know I'm skipping. I ain't got no love to give this week. I'm tired. I don't want
Right.
to do no more work. Y'all ain't getting that from me. Hold yourselves accountable. Just do the things. Be better. I don't know. Your
Period.
turn. Your turn, Gant.
So this week, my love letter is to allyship and those who are figuring it out. I want to encourage you to keep trying and keep exploring, but most importantly, keep learning and keep listening. Keep trusting the people who have intentionally excluded and under resourced identities to learn more about trust that they know more about their experience than you do, right? Keep making an effort to learn more about the struggles of other people, but more importantly, learn about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Learn the places where you don't get it right and commit to fixing it and doing better. Find your blind spots and and do something about it. Right. So not making egregious errors, that's not enough.
Right.
It's not enough for you to say, well, I don't use the N
The N
word or
word. It's such
right.
a low
It's
bar.
just like
It's such a low bar.
it's not enough. It simply isn't. You have to be actively working in the effort to help others unlearn their harmful behaviors and habits just as much as you are staying accountable to the ways that you perpetuate and benefit off of that harm. So you can't arrive at any particular place. There is a continuous road that you will travel when it comes to allyship, and you'll never be perfect. And that's not the goal. The goal is to be dedicated to protecting your fellow human beings in their humanity. So, for the allies out there, people who call themselves allies, if you are an ally, please make sure that you are keeping eyes and ears open, your mouth shut, and potentially your wallet open, because some
Mm-hmm.
people need you to pull up to the fight. And this is a time for you to show up and do as much as you can to help your fellow humans who you see being, shortchanged in any way that shows up. That can go from ability status to your sexual orientation, identity. All
Yep.
of these things are a part of that. So make sure that you are doing the work of trying to be a good ally, putting forth the effort, and accepting correction.
Yes.
Cannot state that enough. When you
No.
are wrong and you get called out, let's go ahead and accept that. Go ahead and accept the correction and learn something from
Yes. Yes. Ashe.
it. So since Jay had nothing to say, this is it for the love letters. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Hold
Mm-hmm.
yourself accountable and get yourself together.
Yes.
All right. So, fam, we are now getting into our closing segment of the episode, which is our favorite cousin. So, every episode, we are going to pick something, each of us, or someone to give their flowers to because they made us happy, made us think, act, or simply because they are Black excellence. So we're going to start with Jade while I think of my favorite cousin for this week.
Okay. So my favorite cousin for this week, it's a company, it's a Black woman owned company called Black Like I Never Left. That's Black Like I Never Left. Like I said, it's a Black woman owned handmade coaster company. So she does handmade coasters, y'all. And they are so amazing. She has an HBCU line. She does like a legendary LGBTQ line. I believe she had a line about Black sisterhood, just like all kinds of Black concepts in coaster form. And so, if you don't know, coasters are the thing that you're supposed to put your drinks on so you don't leave rings on people's table. They are amazing. I have a set. I got my set a couple months ago and absolutely love them. And so when I got my set, I made sure to send a set to to one of my best friends because she went to an HBCU. So I went and I went in and found her school on a coaster set, and so it was like four different coasters, but it was all things related to her school that I mean she would clearly recognize, like the crest and all the colors and all that stuff. And she absolutely loved hers as well. So if you have the opportunity to check out Black Like I Never Left, she has a shop online. Um, there is great quality product. You would be supporting a Black woman. Um, they're so beautiful and they're very sturdy. I the set that I have, it's each one says I have one of each. So it's like protect Black women, trust Black women, love Black women, and support Black
Mm,
women. Those are the four. Um,
cute.
and it's
I love
just,
that.
it's everything I needed to be in my house. So yeah, that's my favorite cousin for this week. Shout out to Black Like I Never Left.
All right. Well, I guess I don't have a specific favorite cousin this week, but what I will say is that I think your favorite cousin has made me kind of think about something that I really love. And if you go on Etsy, there are so many like Black businesses that like create really dope stuff. And I myself, I love stationery. Like I
Hmm.
love a notebook, y'all.
Hmm.
Like a notebook, a calendar. I'm not gonna write in it. That's not the point. It's the the idea
What?
of generally having it.
What?
And there
What
are
do you do
lots
with wait
of
a minute, what do
really
you do with them though?
I
I have
like to have them.
questions.
I do write in them, I just rarely finish one. But
Oh, okay.
I will
Okay.
say, like, since I have really started, like, doing devotionals more consistently, I have finished a couple of notebooks in the last year, but there are some that, like, I just love. Like, there's, like, these moleskin notebooks that look really professional and, like, really sleek and cool, like, and mature looking that I love. I do keep those for work. But that's neither here nor there. My favorite cousin this week is people who make stationery for Black people.
Hmm.
So there is, so as you can see right now, obviously you all can't see it, y'all are just hearing, but there's this little sticker of a Black
She's a
nurse.
Black nurse and she has Afro puffs.
Yes, she has little Afro puffs and
I love
it's
it.
super cute. But but these things are becoming more common. So stuff like this, there's like wrapping paper with Black Santa Clauses on it now. If you go on like Etsy, well, that's obviously very seasonal and holiday specific. But there are notepads. I actually was planning to get one of my former supervisors like a notepad with like her name on it and like this, this. I don't want to say sassy Black woman, but there's
Mm,
this cool looking Black woman with a little fro and some some
mhm.
nice shades on because I think she liked that kind of stuff. And you can order all sorts of like, customized things that you can like, you can put statements on and all sorts of magical stuff like that. So the people who are creating stationery that is specific to Black people and Black culture, y'all are killing it on Etsy and other places as well.
Ooh,
So so shout out to to Black stationery, and go get you some, go copy some of that from any Black owned business on Etsy.
on Etsy. I love it. Okay. Well, this is where we leave y'all.
Yes,
Thank you for
that is
joining us for another episode of the Good Black Podcast. You know where to
yes.
find us. It'll be
You
in the
know where we
outro
at? Everywhere.
everywhere.
Oh, I was gonna like make little like air sound, like air horn
Bow, bow,
noises,
bow, bow.
but then I felt, again, not R.I.P., but rest on to another round with the air horns.
That's how I honor Tracy in heaven.
Yes, shout out to them in their individual spaces on the internets. Bye, y'all.
Bye.